We got some big news today. Ultimate Hunting released a gameplay trailer that we have all been wanting to see, and it is packed full of goodies that we're gonna break down. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're looking at open world hunting on two different hunting reserves, California and Africa. The species that will be represented on those maps are going to be native, as they have tightened up the subspecies quite a bit since the last time we looked at it. And there's going to be a really good mix on both maps, everything from birds to small game, even up to the larger game animals. The terrain is going to be very beautiful. In the California reserves, we are going to see some really giant redwood trees. We're going to see swamps and mountainous terrain. In that area, we have the black bear, the pronghorn, the elk, and even the ducks. We're going to be able to explore one of the most beautiful and mysterious regions in America, where the land itself is marked by the history of hunters who came before us. In southern Africa, we are going to be eye to eye with elephants, hippos, and crocodiles. We're going to be able to discover new regions and hunt unique animals, but we have to remember that we could also turn into the prey. This game reserve is going to be the ultimate test of our abilities. If the animals don't get us, then the terrain is surely too. We're going to need to plan accordingly for each hunt, and it sounds like even stay hydrated. There's going to be over 30 species in total, and you're going to see some of the most iconic species in here: the African bush elephant, the southern African giraffe, and the North American cougar. All the in-game animals will have a designated dynamic need zone for food, rest, and drinking, and they will act according to their nature during what time of day it is. These zones will partially rotate around the map each time you turn on and off the game. So what that means is every time you load up, your animals could be on a different pattern. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but with the dynamic need zones, it's been mentioned that when there is a rainstorm, you might get temporary watering holes. We've also seen encyclopedia entries where we have plants that act as a need zone as well. And then we've also seen baiting in this game. So the two partial need zones that I could see coming up are going to be the temporary watering holes and the temporary feed zones where we are baiting. And for predators, those temporary need zones might actually be a kill. So every time you load up, you will have a different experience with the herd that you have just hunted. And I think that is really cool, much needed in a hunting game. The animals are also going to have the dynamic population. So this diverse population is going to have different weights and sizes of animals, as well as different trophies that we can collect from them. And I think the best way to describe this is you're going to see baby animals in this game. So it's going to be a lot like Way of the Hunter in some ways, where you're going to have to really pay attention to the animal that you're looking at. That way you are taking them in their most mature stage and not when they are still a youngling. So when you look at your herds, you're going to see a bunch of different things going on, a bunch of different ages, bunch of different sizes. And I'm really hoping that transfers over into the different coats, like the albino, the melanistic, and the piebald. We're going to have the RAG system. It's a random antler generator. Basically, it's a sample pool of all the different models for trophies. It's been specifically designed for this game. What it does is it takes a pool of real life sample trophies, and then it continuously designs new ones so that no trophy is ever the same. And I think it's worth mentioning that we might have very unique trophies. As we've seen, the elephant had a broken tusk. I think that we could see some damaged trophies in this as well. We haven't really seen any of the mounting system yet, so we don't know what that's going to look like other than the Euro mount that is behind Pete. And I would be so excited if we do get a Euro mount. That is just one thing I haven't really seen in other hunting games. So if done correctly, it could look so good. I am really liking how all the animal models look. There's only a few that kind of stood out to me. The lion, of course, looks amazing. I haven't seen a game lion like that at all. I think with them coming straight out the gate, giving an amazing looking lion, that should say a lot about what this team can do. Other hunting games that I've played, they just don't get the elk right. And this one has done so good that I'm going to be so excited to get back out into the mountains and hunt these guys. The only one that kind of stood out to me that looked a little odd was the zebra. And I think it's because it's just so white. I'm not sure if it should be like a little dusty or whatever from the savannah, but it just seemed to stand out by how white it was. Now, I'm not even from that area and I don't know a whole lot about zebras, so take that as a grain of salt. So it looks like we will have tracking in this game. I would assume it's going to be dynamic as the herds change directions, the tracks should change directions as well. So I'm assuming they're going to be dynamic and not static, because the need zones are going to be dynamic and not static. Meaning, if the need zones are going to be constantly changing around, then those tracks are going to need to be constantly changing around as well. So I think we're going to have more of a Call of the Wild style of tracking versus a Way of the Hunter. I think the thing that caught everybody's eye though is the ability to carry our animals with our vehicle. And it's been confirmed that this is one way to deposit your animal or taxidermy it, gain whatever type of in-game money you can. There's going to be two ways that you can do this. You can either auto harvest it, which is going to cost you in-game money because someone else has to come out and get it, or you can do it yourself. You can load it up with your winch or your crane, pop it into your trailer or the truck bed, and take it to the butcher. So if you have to auto harvest it, that is going to cost you some money. If you decide to take it back yourself, that will not. So when you're thinking about what you want to do with your animal, keep that in mind. You don't want to pay to have somebody come out if it's already going to be a hefty price to taxidermy it. That's assuming the in-game money is as easily acquired as the last two hunting games have made it. Another thing you're going to be able to spend that money on though is attachments and customizing your weapons. We did get a quick look at the armory, and it looks like we're going to have 5 different attachments that we can work with. We got the barrel, the caliber, the scope, the muzzle, and the stock. And like you would think, the barrel, the caliber, and the muzzle are all going to affect the stats of that weapon there on the right. As when we scroll over the suppressor and the muzzle attachments, we can see over on the right where our stats actually drop for noise and increase for accuracy and range. I would like to see the stability be decreased for a suppressor because it's just that much longer. It should be a little harder to hold. I would like to see a little more tweaks with those things, give us some negatives with it, but being able to throw on attachments and customize your stock is huge. I'm liking the stock options for customizing the forest camo, desert camo, and then the wood grain, and then just a composite. You know, that's pretty typical. And when you're able to customize gear, that just brings you right into the game. And what's crazy about this is that we're not just going to be able to customize our rifles. We are actually going to have other customizables for our character, and it's going to matter. So when you put on camo, you're actually going to gain some stats for hiding to make it harder for them to see you. And animals aren't the only thing that you're going to be able to carry with your vehicle. It does seem like in the back of the Land Rover we're going to be able to put storage back there, as we have a couple utility bags that have our gun, ammo, binoculars, and what looks like a couple different clothing options. What led me to believe that we'll be able to switch our clothing out. We'll be able to just throw all of our gear into these bags, lay out these bags, and as we're done with one hunt and we want to transition to another, we can come to these utility bags, swap out gear, ammo, weapons, and even clothing for the next hunt. Now, just from looking at it, it does look like our gear will take up seats, so there may be a limitation to the vehicles themselves, whether it be weight or just capacity. So say you want to go out and you want to hunt some bear and you plan on baiting. You can take your apples, bait that certain section, even though it might not be time for them to eat. Go ahead and set up your bait, get ready for that hunt, go off, do something else, and before he comes in to a feeding zone, or when you think he's coming in, you can then swap all your gear once again, grab your tripod or whatever you need to do, and get into the hunt. And like I said, we're gonna have baiting in this one, so we're gonna be able to put down baiting places all over the map in order to try and drive animals that way. With the baiting, I'm hoping there's some visuals that we get to see on the landscape of where our bait is. I think that would just be visually appealing. The collars look great as well. I think a little more animation into the collars would be helpful to kind of just immerse yourself into the game. Whenever I'm blowing on an elk call, it is not super steady, it's not super calm. I'm really getting into it, so I would like to see a little more motion there. And I'm really hoping we get like antler rattlers and stuff like that, but that's here nor there. What we have seen looks really good. So for the vehicles, it looks like we will get a truck and a Land Rover for California, and then we're supposed to get the Land Rover and another vehicle. I cannot remember what it is, but at the end of this gameplay trailer we hear a horse and we see horseshoes go across the screen. That makes me think that we may have a horse that we can ride and carry gear with as well. And if we do get a horse, then it's just a stone's throw away from alpacas and llamas. But I would really like to see, as a pack animal, being able to have them drug around with us on a hike. That would be so cool as a hunting experience. Get ready for the next 5 years of Ultimate Hunting. Now for a couple of things that I am really excited about that are happening with this game. The first thing I want want to talk about is going to be the NPCs. Having NPCs on the map that you can go around and talk to for missions is huge. Gone should be the days of the radio missions. Nothing takes me out of the game more than constantly being on this phone where I'm trapped in a certain spot. I can't leave, I can't walk around. I just have to listen to this person talking to me over a radio. So now being able to actually go and face NPCs, that's huge just for a game. Just for like getting in the game and the immersion of it, that's massive for me. This is something that's really needed to be happening, and I'm so glad Ultimate Hunting is going this direction and not the direction of radio missions. There's going to be multiplayer on this game as well. It's going to be massive. Sounds like you're going to have 16 players on one map, which could be quite a cluster depending on who you're playing with, and it can turn into quite a project as well, as there may be a poacher indicator for people that are shooting young animals, female animals, or animals that just aren't ready to be harvested or shouldn't be harvested. And the last thing I kind of want to talk about is something that I wasn't quite sure if I was seeing it correctly or if it was just a lighting thing that's happening in the game. I was looking at the trees quite a bit, and I'm noticing that the brown can turn quite a bit brighter in the sun. So when I looked at this elk, I initially thought it was an albino, and I was like, no way, an albino, broken trophies, and then on top of that, a non-typical. This would be insane. And while I do believe that that will be the case eventually, I'm not sure if we are seeing an albino. The face is so white, and with elk, they're brown for sure, and the way it looks, it just seems like it's kind of a naked mole rat version of an elk. So it could very well be an albino with the pink nose and the white face. It's just so hard to tell with that sunlight coming in that I don't want to make any assumptions right away, but I will say it looks very much like an albino. But the way that the elk does move and shuffle in the back of the truck as we're going through this kind of mud runner landscape, you can tell that the physics is really going to be at work. I think that the port to Unreal Engine 5 is something that we should definitely praise when looking at those physics. Overall, I'm really excited about this game. It looks really well, and I can tell the community has really been wanting to see this gameplay, and I'm so glad that it finally got delivered. But that is everything that I have been able to see, everything that I know so far about Ultimate Hunting and what it's going to bring to the table. If there's anything else that I may have missed, go ahead and leave me a comment down below and let me know. We are still looking at a release date somewhere in 2025 or even 2026, so hang in there, be patient, but know that this is a very serious project. Drop a like on the video if you found any of this useful and to help the channel grow. But for now, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day.